Welcome once again to this week's Rashi Nosh. I'm Pastor Matt.
I'm Kara.
It's wonderful to be back with you as we continue in this saga, the story of Joseph. Through the end of the book of Genesis, we'll be talking about Joseph and his life, and it really begins to be it's like a movie. It's like a drama, the story that unfolds as we go through the end of the book of Genesis. So in this week's Torah portion, this is we have seen how Joseph wants to keep Benjamin because he placed his cup in Benjamin's sack. We know that it was, he did this on purpose as kind of a test for his brothers. He seems to be testing them a lot. Giving one more portions of food than another to see if their jealousy is still there, to see if they are changed men, basically. And Judah does something pretty amazing, and that is he offers himself instead of Benjamin. But as he does this, he approaches, it says here at the beginning of the Torah portion in verse 18, chapter 44, "Then Judah approached him and said, 'If you please, my lord, may your servant speak a word in my lord's ears, and may your anger not flare up at your servant, for you are like Pharaoh.'" So Rashi asks a question, why does he say, "Don't let your anger flare up"? Rashi answers this question by saying that Joseph, from the language used, we learn that Judah spoke to Joseph harshly, that he was really assertive, really forthright. Obviously, he's defending his brother. What he basically says to Joseph is, if we go back home without our brother Benjamin, our father has already lost one son. And basically what he says is it will kill him. It will take him down to his grave if we don't come back with young Benjamin. And so he makes this appeal to trade places with him. And it makes me think, of course, of the self-sacrifice that we see with our Messiah. But it also reminds me of Moses, where Moses says, "Lord, take me out of your book and let the children of Israel live. Cut me off from the people, but let the children of Israel live." Paul says something very similar in the New Testament, where he says, "I would be willing for me to be cut off if my whole people could understand who the Messiah is." So it's a self-sacrificing love. I think as parents, we know what that's like. We've been in situations where we would say, "I would trade places with my child." Mm-hmm. I'm particularly thinking of, many people who are watching will know the story of how I used to be deaf in my right ear. And we have a daughter, our oldest daughter, who had a growth in her inner ear called a cholesteatoma that caused hearing loss in her right ear, the same ear. And how I've thought many times, I'd very gladly trade places with her. I would be willing to lose hearing in my ear again if it meant that my daughter could hear. Have there been times in your life, either with a sibling, a family member, one of our kids, that you've had that fleeting thought in your mind, "I just wish I could trade places with them"?
Oh, absolutely. Countless times, especially with children. Anytime they're sick or hurt, Ian broke his arm and had to have a knee surgery. Those times are obvious. But even sometimes when they would just come home, and they're dealing with an issue with a friend, or they're struggling in school, or anytime there was, real angst over an issue or just any kind of problem, your heart just goes out, especially when it's your children. You just say, "Oh, I wish I could take that from you or take it for you," but we can't, which is a good thing, because I think some, especially moms, I think we would maybe take that too far. But I think it's easy to, especially for those that are close to you. Not always is easy for people that you aren't as close to, obviously. But even sometimes I would imagine I would see somebody in a situation that I'd say, "Oh, I feel for them, and I wish I could take that for them because I know they're struggling."
Yes. Well, that's exactly what Judah does. He basically says at the end of this sort of speech that he gives to who he doesn't know is his brother Joseph. He says, "How can I go up to my father if the youth is not with me, lest I see the evil that will befall my father?" In the verse above, he says, "Please let your servant remain in place of the youth as a servant to my Lord, and let the youth go up with his brothers." By this, Joseph understands that the brothers have had a change of heart, where they were willing to literally sell one of their brothers. Now we see that it's not the case with Judah. Judah, who was never in favor of doing what happened to Joseph. But what's interesting about Judah is there are many people that believe that this is why the Messiah comes through the line of Judah, is because Judah is given this honor because of his self-sacrificing attitude. And so not only does the Messiah come through Judah, but because he's a king, the kings come through the line of Judah. So there's almost this blessing that is bestowed because of this self-sacrificing attitude that Judah has. And I think it's fitting. I really do. Just this attitude of being willing. We're thinking back to Abraham and Isaac. Sacrifice your son, not having to go through with it, but just being willing to do that. Sometimes God honors the willingness of us to submit to his will and to do it. So obviously, we then have a very emotional reveal. But I'm not sure that would have come about in the way that it did if Judah had not been willing to give himself in his place, in Benjamin's place. It just was a very considerate and a very loving thing, especially to think of their father in this way.
Yeah.
This is going to destroy our father if we don't come back with him.
Benjamin was the son of the same wife as Joseph, right?
Yeah,
So,
and that's the one that he really loved.
Mm-hmm.
This is Rachel, the one that he really wanted to marry. That's a very good point. So it's a family drama that's continuing to be hashed out throughout the rest of the book of Genesis. And we're going to continue down this road as the story gets deeper and the plot gets thicker. We want to thank you for joining us once again this week, and have that type of self-sacrificing love. You can do it. Follow the examples that we have in the scripture. Be willing to give yourself for someone else. Remember, you can't have a greater love than to lay down your life for a friend or a loved one. This comes straight from the Messiah himself. So may you be blessed, may your family be blessed, and may you have this type of self-sacrificing love in your life. Thank you for joining us. Shalom.